Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman or God, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananji Maharaj, to sage Narada, and all the sages and saints, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. So today we will be covering the Narada Bhakti Sutras, chapter 1, sutra number 4. Commentary is by my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started. Sutra number 4 of chapter 1. Labdhva puman siddho bhavati amrito bhavati tripto bhavati. Let's repeat. यल्लब्ध्वा पुमान सिद्धो भवति अमृतो भवति तृप्तो भवति. Meaning, having attained that means the revelation of supreme devotion. Attained that, one becomes perfect, immortal, and contented. So these are the benefits automatically that come to us once we attain that state of supreme devotion or parabhakti. So explanation, just as wax melts when heated, so the very heart of a devotee melts by the fire of devotion and thus flows towards the divine self automatically. This melting love gives rise to the increasing experience of unique joy that cannot be compared to any worldly experience of pleasure. So that is the prasad or the sacrament we get with communing with God Himself. So Siddho Bhavati means a devotee attains perfection. This divine flow of spiritual feeling tears the veil of ignorance, and it melts the ego and dissolves the vision of multiplicity, enabling the devotee to discover his essential identity with the divine beloved. So every time we cry tears of devotion and bhakti, we are burning that veil of ignorance and purifying ourselves. That is the deeper meaning. This is the highest siddhi or perfection. A devotee becomes merged into God. Amrita Bhavati means a devotee overcomes death. We have studied in the previous sutra, Raso Vaisa, Amrita. When the stream of devotion melts the devotee's ego sense, all the afflictions are removed and all his karmas are destroyed. But till that ego remains, that keeps us constrained, it keeps us restricted. So therefore, with our devotion, supreme love, divine love, the act of ego should be to become egoless. He becomes free from the three knots. We are born with three knots, and therefore these knots are what we have to remove by different paths. But the path of bhakti, in this case with devotion, we remove the knots of avidya. Avidya is considered ignorance, kama, knot of kama, and that's the knot of desire, and the knot of karma. So that's called karma granthi, kama granthi, avidya granthi. Karma granthi resides in the navel center or the Manipura chakra, and that is for we can open it, and then our karma is action. So then basically that knot is removed. Then we have to remove the knot of desire. All these things are very easily said in a very quick satsang, but to implement them is where it takes our full life, our dedication, our love. Everything is in implementation. And then finally ignorance resides in our agya chakra, and that's why you will see a lot of Indian saints and sages and spiritual people generally apply some kumkum or chandan. Chandan is sandalwood paste in between the eyebrows to activate the chakra for that reason. So therefore the knots of these three knots are destroyed. This allows the devotee to be merged in supreme divinity and to attain immortality. So think of your Shushumna Nadi or the central spinal column as a water pipe, and think of these knots as cranks in the knot. So we have three cranks here that are not letting the water flow properly, bhakti flow properly. So what happens is when these knots are opened up, the flow becomes instant and spontaneous, and there is no more constriction anymore, because we have opened the knots. But the effort lies in opening the knots. There's no other way. You cannot just, this is the only body we have, this is the only spine we have, so we have to fix these problems through our sadhana, our devotion. And the third one is called Tripto Bhavati. Tripto is contented. A devotee attains supreme contentment. And supreme contentment is the result of fulfillment of all desires and the cessation of all cravings. So basically, you have nothing, no more need for running after worldly objects anymore. You are totally self-contained. You enjoy your own fragrance, your own aroma that comes from within you. A devotee in the state of divine communion is absolutely free of all desires and cravings, and therefore his inner joy is beyond imagination. He doesn't need anything external to make him happy. He's already happy. An aspirant, however, so that is the state of a Siddha yogi, like our divine masters who have attained self-realization. While for most of us who are working on this journey, we have to put in the effort. We have to get to that point by putting in our sadhana, by developing bhakti, karma, jnana, dhyana, all these things. So an aspirant must see the contrast between the supreme contentment of bhakti and the contentment of Raja Yoga. So the sutras we just covered, Patanjali Maharaj, one of the niyamas is santosh. Santosh means contentment. It is one of the observances in Raja Yoga, one of the niyamas, and it is a means to purity of the mind. So even this form of contentment must be differentiated from false satisfaction, or Swamiji is guiding us. It's called mithya tushti, which means we have a false satisfaction that is the result of inertia and manifests when a person stops his self-effort, thinking that he is already very advanced. So on this path, we never should compare ourselves against people, worldly people. We should be looking at sage Narada, our Guru, Swami Shivananda, Swami Jyotirmananda, people who are enlightened, and then we will see that there is still such a long way for us to go and touch that level of Brahma Gyan or self-realization. So therefore, we should not sit down thinking we have accomplished a lot. No matter how much, this is a ceaseless journey. Time is limited, human breath is limited, our bodies are limited. We don't know when we will be deprived of this opportunity. So when you get the opportunity, like they say, a good farmer makes hay while the sun shines. So while you're able to, just continue to do so, but don't get into a false sense of security. Oh, I have read all these sutras, or I have followed Patanjali, and therefore now I know a lot. When that thought comes, that is not you talking, that is the ego talking. So you need to shut it down. Thinking of that, so that is where Guruji, Swamiji is guiding us, that don't get into that false hope. The tendency to become falsely satisfied with lesser attainments on the spiritual path must be checked by developing spiritual discontent or the longing for divine love. Actually, every night we should be crying tears of viraha or separation from God, saying, oh God, I still have not attained you tonight. Tomorrow I will try again. And that is how we should be thinking, rather than thinking, oh, I have already come such a long distance. It is okay. Don't be thankful to God that you are getting this opportunity. You are getting this dedication. That is the inner God in you is inspiring you to do that. But continue to push and inspire yourself. Don't get contented. That is the point Swamiji is trying to address here. And that's not what Narada is saying either. He's like, be contented with your effort. He's saying be contented with the bliss and the joy that you are getting, and be contented that you don't want anything else from the world. That contentment is what we are talking about. That there's nothing external that can stimulate you, nothing external that can give you more pleasure. Your joy is already Amrita within. So the movement towards supreme contentment is not contradicted by this increasing longing for divine love or unrest for divine communion. So we need to continue to increase that. It's called pyas, tadap, just like a fish. You see, you take it out of water, it basically would continue to want water, nothing else. It'll die otherwise. So it needs that water. So similarly, we need that communion, we need that bhakti. That's the level of dedication and devotion we need on this holy path. One must promote an increasing experience of sattvic contentment by adopting a spirit of surrender to God. So first we have to increase our sattva or purity, as you know, and that can come by Ishwar Pranidhana, surrender to God and seeing the divine hand behind every situation. Don't complain when hardships come. That's just a test. And then you keep on accepting God's grace, and you keep on going higher and higher, no matter how pleasant or unpleasant or painful the situation may be. They will come and go. So just continue to strive on. This is continued until the state of supreme contentment is reached. And that is what Sage Narada is saying. You will eventually reach that supreme contentment in Parabhakti stage. Only then you can rest. But as an aspirant, we are not allowed to rest. We cannot be like gurus or enlightened sages and saints who have achieved that state. We are still in the process. We are still running the race. So therefore, we cannot stop just yet. And even after achieving everything, these sages and saints never rest. They keep on giving and giving and sharing, and because that is the rest of their life. They get so much joy by trying to share that path. So that this is a holy, and that's why we call it the holy path. It is unselfish, it is unassuming, it just wants to give everything, everything that these teachers know. So that is why we do humble prostrations to them. That is why we have humility, egolessness, because in order to become like them, we have to follow their footsteps. Okay, so describing the nature of the devotee, Lord Krishna says in the Gita, there is this beautiful shloka in the Gita, chapter 12, shloka number 14. For those of you who like to read Bhagavad Gita, the shloka, Lord Krishna says, Santushtah satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchayaha mayyarpita mano buddhir yo mad bhaktah ratame priya. So santushtah satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchayah maya arpit mano buddhir yo madbhaktah same priya. So God says, he who is ever contented, united with me, self-controlled, possessed of firm resolve, with his mind and intellect dedicated to me, such a devotee is dear to me. So imagine, this is God guiding us, himself saying these are the qualifications he is looking in us. So therefore, let us strive to be humble instruments. Let us try to imbibe these qualities and continue the journey. Every day, do self-analysis, introspect, and continue walking on this holy path while we have this beautiful human embodiment in life. And we are the architects of our own destiny. So therefore, we make the right decisions, we get the right results also. This is Swami Nikhilananda. I will see you in tomorrow's satsang. Om Tat Sat.